Um, let's start with the health episodes that you both went through. And actually, I'm going to share my screen here and show you pictures of these athletes. Whoop, it says host disabled participant screen sharing. So we can come back to that.
Mark, you should be all set.
All right.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
It's all these minor details, you know, you don't think of ahead.
So I'm just going to share a picture of Marty.
There he is.
And then after that,
You have it up on your.
Of the early days.
there's Dan.
That's up in the North Woods of Wisconsin.
And Marty, where was this? Do you remember?
Believe it or not, I think that was out in Cary.
Oh,
It was a Cary half marathon, like
the
20 years
March
ago.
Madness, the brutal March Madness half marathon. So anyways, here's these two gentlemen. And maybe we'll start with Marty. And maybe you can take us through your episode and what happened. And by the way, it's interesting that we have Jerry on the line too, because I believe Jerry was with you.
Yeah, actually, my other brother was with me, Brian. And in 2007, I had a stroke. And let me know, I'm losing audio here sometimes. So
We can hear you just fine.
okay, let me know. For some
Whoop, now
reason,
it's
it keeps dropping. So in 2007, I had a stroke caused by trauma to the side of my neck on the left side. So I had an artery that ripped, and it was actually healing. Small clot formed, broke off, causing the stroke. So at the time, I was in great shape. I ran a marathon earlier that year. Never thought it would happen to me. I was 40 years old at the time. And just out of nowhere, ended up having a stroke.
so you had the stroke. Did somebody recognize right away that you were having a stroke, and how did that transpire?
No, not really. It was, yeah, I was having a problem. Really, 'cause I lost my speech, and there was no pain, no sign of it happening. I turned to my brother to talk to him, and I could kind of hear what I was saying.
It sounds like you're having a
It sounded
stroke right now.
clear as a bell, because I knew what I was saying.
There's something wrong with your mic. You're kind of going blah, 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 blah.
That's the stroke. No.
That's what I'm saying. You're having a second one.
Let me see if I can.
Your video freezes a little bit too.
Is it still coming in and out?
Did you get your computer before the stroke?
Funny. All right. Let's do this. Let me see if I can adjust my internet here, because something's not working right. Is that any better? Can you guys hear me yet?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, Marty, you're sounding pretty good right now.
Now we lost him again.
Marty, time out. We can't hear you. We're experiencing technical difficulties. We can't hear you.
Yeah. Marty, unfortunately, yeah, something's going on with your computer there where you're muted or something's going on.
Is that any better?
Now you're back.
All right. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try moving locations, see if I get better internet. Mark, you want to pick up with Dan, and I'll rejoin you in a minute?
We lost Mark too, but yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah. We're
Okay.
just having a fun technical time this evening here, guys.
You know,
Thank
it
you.
happens.
Thank
It
you,
happens.
everybody,
Mark,
for your
figure out what you
patience.
can do, and we'll go into Dan's story. I'm not sure what happened to Mark either, but Dan, let's start with your pre heart attack running. Just a brief, resume of where you were running, and then your episode, and then kind of take us through that a little bit, please.
Yeah. So for me, kind of like Marty too, it was unexpected. I should tell you everybody that I have a family background with heart issues, but I had been running for many, many years, and I just never thought it could happen to me. I ran the marathon Chicago in October 2017. I ran for the Alzheimer's Association and was in really great shape. 2 months later, December 7th, 2017, I got up early, and it was all of about maybe 12 or 13 degrees out. So it was cold, and I did about a mile, and I thought, I'm not going to go more than 2 miles. It's just too cold out here. But as I was running, I felt this kind of ache in my left shoulder. But I'm not a kid anymore. A lot of aches and pains. You just kind of keep running and you work through them. But I got home after a couple miles, and I still felt that ache, and mentioned it to my wife. And right away she, we got to go get checked. And I got meetings today. I don't have time to do anything like that. But as I kind of got ready for work, it got progressively worse. So much so to the point where I kind of agreed. I said, we better get over to the hospital. Long story short, I ended up over at Alexian with the A team over there. What an outstanding group of people they are. Talk about heroes. Saved my life. I had a blockage of one of my arteries, and it got pretty intense. And they ended up, put a vein or through my wrist of the vein in my wrist. They put gadget in there and then ran a stent up to my artery. And within half hour, I was completely back to normal. But had things, the timing not worked out so perfectly, it could have been a totally different story. I mean, during my training, I would be running over at Bussy Woods early on Sunday mornings. You don't see a soul out there sometimes. I've been training up in the North Woods. You don't see anybody up there. And if it had happened somewhere like that, it may not have had such a good outcome. But just one of those things when you don't expect it, and then it happens. So, still here though, still running.
Dan, I think I missed a lot of your talk there. I do know the story.
Yeah.
But question I always have, like, when do you know that something's serious enough to get to the hospital?
Well, I mentioned that initially when I was running, I felt an ache in my left shoulder, which is a classic sign of a heart attack, one of several signs of it. But it never dawned on me. I just thought it was a sore muscle. By the time I got home, it was getting a little bit more. It felt a little bit more intense, but I was insistent that I was going to go to work. But as I was getting ready for work, I just felt kind of like some tightness in my chest, and started sweating. Again, all signs of something much more serious, and that's when we just beelined it right over to Alexian Brothers. And I will tell you, by the time I got there, there was no question that I needed help.
And Evelyn was your wife was.
Luckily, my wife was here. And you just think, let's get to the hospital. In retrospect, it probably would have been better for me to call an ambulance, but it was whatever, 6:30, 6:45 in the morning, and very little traffic, and we were there. We're 10 minutes away anyway, so we got there really quick, and it worked out well. And prior to that, I had gone, for physical. And my doctor over the years I come from a family with heart disease. My blood pressure was okay. Cholesterol was okay. It wasn't stellar, but it was, average, maybe a little high. And he was always pushing me to get on some medications, some cholesterol medications. And I just figured I'll eat a little bit better and I'll run a little bit farther and I'll be fine. And, some people told me you can't outrun your genes. So, if you're hardwired to have something like that, if it runs in your family, if I could do it over again, I wouldn't have been so stubborn or thinking I was indestructible. I would have followed my doctor's advice. And I can assure you that I've changed my diet. I take my medications. But the one beautiful thing about it is, they said, do not stop running, which, I love running. And so I'm fortunate that that's something that they're telling me to keep doing. I was definitely, after I had the heart attack, I had to go, I was in the hospital for 4 days, was released, but I had to go for therapy, 3 times a week at Alexian. And and Marty can probably vouch for this too. There's that fear factor, because you think, oh my God, if that happens again, I don't want it to happen. And then kind of some feelings like where, geez, I'll never be able to run at Bussy again, because you never want to be running alone or running up in the North Woods. But over time, it's been, it'll be, it was 3 years. It'll be 3 years so it's 2.5 years. And I'm pretty much over the fear factor part of it. But I do wear a heart monitor, so I monitor what my heart rate is all the time, carry a phone with me all the time. But knock on wood, it's been great, and building myself back up in shape again and feeling really better than I did. I never really felt bad. It was just such a sudden event. But I feel really good. I feel very healthy. I'm eating much better, lost some weight. So all good. But it's just something you have to be aware of, and something I'm going to have to live with for the rest of my life.
So Marty, I think you too are, you're in pretty good shape right now and have been the last few years. Would you concur with Dan that maybe you're even in some ways in better shape than before?
Well,
do you?
My injury happened so many years ago, so I was 15 years younger.
That's true.
Yeah. 13 years younger, so no.
Yeah.
I'm not in better shape. At the time I was in pretty good shape when it happened. And I'm not sure if everybody heard, it was breaking up a lot, but pretty much I had a stroke caused by trauma to the side of my neck, which actually started healing. As it was healing, a small piece broke off, causing the stroke. Didn't really know what was happening at the time. So my wife came home and said, "You're going to the hospital," and was in the hospital for a week or two, until the next day my speech came back. Didn't have any other signs. Was in the hospital for a week until I could get my blood thin enough at the right level to then release me from the hospital. And basically they told me not to run for a while, just to play it safe until it completely healed. Then they gave me the okay, but again, like Dan said, it was the big fear factor of, could this happen again? There was nothing really that I remember causing it. I don't remember getting hit in the neck. So my big fear was, if it was something very minor, then it could happen again. I don't even remember getting hit. I almost wish I was in a lot of times they see this from people that are in car accidents and stuff like that, where they get injured and that trauma causes a stroke. In my case, I don't even remember getting hit in the neck with artery ripped. So the fear was, hey, could this happen again? And eventually 3 or 4 months later, I started running again. And, you get over that eventually. It's kind of life, you take a risk every day you walk out of the house. So, especially nowadays.
Marty, how many marathons have you done since 2007?
So up to that point, I think I did somewhere around 16 up to that point. And then I stopped running I had some other things going on at the time. So when this happened, I didn't really start running. I was more or less doing it just to stay healthy. So I didn't really start doing marathons and stuff. I took probably 3 or 4 year break, not due to the stroke necessarily, but just other things that were going on in my life. And then I started running again, 4 years later, and started getting into marathons again, and started running. The last 10 years, probably ran 10 more marathons.
Wow. And Dan, you ran a marathon. When you did Chicago 2 years ago?
The last one I did was 17, 2 months before my heart attack. In total, I've done 10 marathons. Not like Jerry or Marty, certainly, or even you, Mark. It's something for me. I'm more, of that half marathon mindset right now. But we'll see. maybe I can get another one out of me yet.
All right. Athletic history. I mean, like I when I introduced you, I said you're both, as far long as I've known you, been in good shape, healthy. I mean, it isn't like you just started doing athletics, right? I mean, like Marty, how long since you were a kid you were doing sports, right?
Yeah, for the most part, you go through phases and stuff. I did in high school, I ran cross country and track. And then in my early 20s, I did just 5Ks. I enjoyed going out and just doing, especially in the summertime and in the spring and fall, find some 5Ks to go run with some friends. Kind of weekend warrior stuff, didn't have to do a lot of training, but go out and run a 5K. So that was a lot of fun. And at the time, that was all, I needed. It kept me going, it kept me in shape. It wasn't until I was in my 30s, really, that I started running some marathons. Basically, my brother Jerry was running some marathons and said, "Hey, why don't you come out and run with us?" And this was back when you could get into Chicago Marathon and you could still register in September and get in. So I think
those were the days.
Yeah, I started training in August and ran that year's marathon.
And Dan, how about your athletic history?
I definitely played sports in high school, but I was never one for running. I mean, there were people that said, you got to go out for track, and I just didn't understand the concept of running, right? I got it if you had a basketball or if you're going to running with a football or something, but running just didn't do anything for me. And then as I got older, I ended up joining the fitness center here in Itasca and played some basketball there. And I would run the track upstairs, ran into Jennifer, Don Harris, and a few others, 2005. And we just got the idea of starting a club. Why don't we run together? And that's how the Itasca Runners Club came about back in 05. And I fell in love with just running and the camaraderie, the competition, not with each other, but within yourself, to maybe improve your time or how fast could I go and could I really do 26 miles? And so that whole challenge part of it. And through the course of doing it, I've met, some of my closest friends in my entire life. It's just a great sport when it comes to camaraderie, physical improvements, and then mental too. I mean, you could have kind of the craziest things going on in your head, and you get out on Bussy Woods, and after that first mile, it's like everything's just fine. It's really what a wonderful sport. I'm really grateful that I'm able to, continue doing it. Not just with the heart attack issue, but just your joints and all that kind of stuff, to be able to keep pushing it. And so I'm again very grateful, and I love it all year long too. If it gets really nasty cold out, single temps, that kind of thing, then maybe we go indoors, but running outdoors is really great. And the road trips, going together as a club to different race events and after parties, and it's just a good time. Can't speak highly enough about it.
Marty, you got anything to add to that?
No, I totally agree. I mean, it's not so much the running in itself, isn't the greatest part of it. It's more the camaraderie and, the social aspect of it. And, we go on some trips here and there, and even local ones to some races and hanging out afterwards. And, we end up meeting, at Starbucks. We end up, we're supposed to start at 7, and we end up talking for 10 minutes before we even run. And then we get back, we end up hanging out there longer than we even ran. So it's more the social aspect, and before and after, and running too. There's a lot of times we get to run with our friends and talk, and even in the races and stuff, be able to run with some of your friends and share that part of it.
All right, we got some pictures that we want to get to. We tried before. There we go. So we saw Dan up in Wisconsin. There's Marty, his wife Sally-Ann.
This was pre-stroke in Boston. Group of us, wherever you're going to a race, there's always other people that you either know, run with, you could find to hang out with, and this was out to dinner afterwards. and just.
I got to correct you on that, Marty.
What's that?
That's Michigan, Grand Rapids.
Oh, you're right. Okay, I have a Boston
Marathon.
T-shirt on. That's what it was.
But those same people were in Boston one time too. So
That's right. That's Grand Rapids. All right.
Those were some tasty looking
Oh.
Bloody Marys that you had.
I
Look at those Bloody Marys. Well done.
don't know who that is.
So Jerry, what's up with? I mean, look at his abs.
You can tell that guy's in shape.
Man. Tight.
Look at those abs.
Tight. That's a pretzel. That's not. We don't promote smoking.
No, we don't.
It's pretzel. Those are. That's iced tea.
That's a pretzel, isn't it?
That might. I don't know. I got a medal around my neck. I might have won my age group that day. It's possible.
Later, Ozen. There's Marty and Sally Ann.
This is pre-stroke as well. This is probably, I don't know, 15 years ago, Milwaukee Marathon.
Impressive time.
Yeah.
3:37.
Great time. So this is the
Dan.
Shamrock Shuffle. On a beautiful day in downtown Chicago with 6 of my close friends, Dawn and Jimmy, and then the green guys that are one of the biggest attractions at the Shamrock Shuffle. Jerry, how many runners are at the Shamrock Shuffle typically?
It's huge. It's the biggest 8K in the world,
Yeah.
and it's somewhere around it's close to the marathon. I think it's like between 20 and 30,000 people. Yeah.
And an 8K is just shy of 5 miles. And you can tell what a beautiful city we live in, and the after party event and just hanging out. It's a lot of smiles on those faces. Good time.
This is me and Jerry out in, I'm trying to think what marathon this was. This was Napa Valley.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which is beautiful start. You're out there. There were some wild horses, not wild, but there were some horses running by that were on some farm or something. Yeah, Napa Valley, probably 2005.
Yeah.
Our running club started.
Yeah.
Ah, Dan the man.
Man, what's up with that?
I don't know. Somebody must have hollered my name, and we were taking a picture, one of my family members, whatever, and it's a secret signal from the Murphy clan. And that's the Chicago Marathon, December 2017. Yeah, right. And have no idea what mile that was, but I'm still look pretty fresh, so it's probably early in the race.
Looking good. All right, St. George Marathon, 2006.
Marty, how come Sally's always ahead of you in these races?
I know, right? It beat me twice.
And isn't that one downhill, like the entire? Isn't St. George?
A lot of it's downhill, except for there's one giant uphill where you can see people from like miles away, and they look like little ants going up this hill. It's like a mile-long hill. Everything else is downhill.
It's fast. It's a fast course.
So that's the end of the pictures.
That was a great trip too.
Nice.
Talk about running trips, man. We've had some really great running trips. New Orleans, of course, like Boston, that St. George one, where we flew into Vegas and then went and ran the race in Utah and then back to Vegas afterwards, which of course can't talk about all the details here on a family show. But yeah, the running trip's been great. You know, a lot of people that don't run or don't run a lot and haven't run with a running group, like the guys said earlier, that's some of the best stuff, you know, the camaraderie, all the things that go along with that, whether it's traveling and just going out should go out for a long run. You sit there and talk about whatever for 2 hours with somebody, and it just, you know, and then, you know, part of it with all the exertion of running and the hormones, you know, and the endorphins and everything, you know, you get this closeness with people you run with that you don't get with other people, you know.
Yeah, I would concur on the long runs. There have been some famous ones, and Dan, you can vouch for some of our famous long runs.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Some funny stuff that happens and discussions. But Yeah.
And the good thing too is, you know, the running community, for anybody that's out there that might be thinking about, you know, running, whatever, it's very welcoming for everybody of every, you know, talent level. I mean, there are some people out there in the Itasca Runners Club that are, you know, you wonder if they're even human. They're just so incredibly talented runners. And other people that are more just kind of in a, you know, startup mode, and a lot of the middle of the pack runners, and you just kind of fit in with people that are running at your pace. And a lot of times the whole group runs together, but it's just a very welcoming sport. And, you know, one that you could push yourself as hard as you want. And if you're not totally up to it, you just kind of cut back a little bit. And I think, Jerry, you talked about it in one of the other episodes, where probably the biggest expense is your shoes, you know, and to buy a quality pair of running shoes, and other than that, some running gear, and you're good to go.
Dan, how often do you change your shoes?
It's probably somewhere around 300 miles, somewhere around there. It just depends on the shoe. I wear New Balance shoes, and I find those to be, you know, really well-made shoes. And you know, you might pay 140, 150 bucks for a pair of running shoes, but it's worth it. You know, protects your feet and your joints. And but I would say typically 300 miles, 350 miles, something like that. I try to do. I mean, it's a goal to do. For me, it personally, you know, maybe work 100 miles a month, 1,200 miles a year, and so maybe 3 pairs of shoes a year is what I go through.
So Marty just left us. Jerry, how often do you change your shoes? How many pairs of shoes do you think you have in your rotation?
This is an ongoing battle in my house because my wife's always asked me to get rid of shoes.
Same in our house.
They've been regulated in the garage. I've got racks and racks of shoes in the garage. And, well, for a long time, I was getting a free pair every year from Nike. For some years, they were giving me 2 pair when I was pace team leader for Nike. So for, you know, years, I'd get 2 pair of shoes from Nike, and then I'd buy some other ones, and I'd always buy the Chicago Marathon edition Saucony ones. I like Saucony a lot. But yeah, so I just rotate through them a lot till I used to be a lot more strict about, you know, 300 miles because I'm a little heavier. So, but you should, somewhere between 300 and 500 miles is good on a pair of shoes. But since I have some money, I just kind of look at the wear pattern and see where they're at and how they feel when I run. You could tell, you know, if they start feeling, you know, they lose their cushion.
All right. I think there's a bunch of Q&A. Frank, do you want to gravitate to that part of our discussion?
Yeah, you get this. The Q&A, man, is just blowing up.
Uh-oh.
It's really cool to see. So the first question, and possibly the most important question of the night: who is the most legendary of the Itasca runners?
Steve.
You mean, how do you define legendary?
Yeah.
Steve is the king. Anybody who ever wants to come out, you don't have to worry about being humbled coming to Itasca Runners because Steve's going to beat everybody by a lot.
And then there's Jimmy Tubbs, the Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
He's a legend for sure. That's a funny story too, because Jimmy Tubbs was an example of I, along with 2 or 3 others, were pacing a half marathon on the lakefront, and this guy that was with our group, you know, introduced himself, Jimmy Tubbs, and first time we ever met him, and we were going along, and he's talking, and we're kind of keeping a good pace, but some people were dropping off. I remember it being a cold winter day, and people were dropping off, and by the time we got to about that last mile, we're about 12 miles into this thing, about the only guy that was with us was Jimmy Tubbs, and it was his first half marathon. And I forget what time we were bringing everybody in on, but we were right on target. But that last mile, Jimmy Tubbs took off and finished ahead of all of us. And he was like a stray cat. We couldn't get rid of him. He's been with us ever since, and really a dear friend and great guy. And
Run the Boston Marathon.
And a legend. Yeah, ran the Boston Marathon. Yeah.
8:65. Jimmy's.
Oh, no,
I'm not sure if he's on the call here or on the Zoom meeting.
He's like 67, 68, I think. Something like that.
All right. Other questions?
What's the longest time any of you have been away from running due to injury or other reasons?
For me, it hasn't really been long at all for any injury. I mean, I've had a hamstring pull that bothered me for a while. I mean, like my heart attack, I was in the hospital for 4 days, and on the 6th day, I was training in the rehab on a treadmill. So I was really not away for very long at all. Maybe the longest I've been away from running is maybe 6 weeks because of a hamstring.
After my stroke, I didn't run for a few years, actually. I did a little bit, but not much. 08, 09, 010, started running again in 11. So, and I don't know if it was starting running was more of a run walk. I pretty much run a little bit, walk a little bit, run a little bit, walk a little bit, the Saturday morning run until I could run the whole thing, kind of.
As you get older, you definitely, if you take some time off, whatever mojo you got, you'll lose it. And when you get back into it again, it's a little bit tougher, to like you go through the run walk and you're sucking air a little bit, but it isn't all that long if you keep working at it where you're just talking during your runs. It's, you're kind of back to normal again.
All right, Frank, next question.
All right, that's kind of a two-part or multi-part here. How did your injury affect how you approached your future fitness or running goals? And did you change any increases in intensity, time, mileage? I think, Marty, you kind of already discussed that, but you want to add to that at all?
Well, starting out again, I just kind of had to start out just as if I, was a new runner almost. But in the first year or two, you worry about it a lot. Is it going to happen again and that? But the more I kept running, the more comfortable I became with it. And, eventually, started training just as hard as I did prior to that. So.
Yeah, for me, my doctor said it was, the running had nothing to do as far as triggering my heart attack. He goes, that was coincidental. Could have happened when you were watching, TV. And he kept reinforcing the idea of don't stop, keep running. He never really said this to me, but he kind of insinuated that if anything saved your life, it was probably the fact that you had been a runner. Your heart was very strong. So it really was a mental thing for me. I had to keep remembering what he was telling me to do to keep running. And, but I took it gradually. I really didn't push myself, probably for maybe, 12 to 15 months until after the heart attack that I started to really push it a little bit. So, and there's still, I got to admit, there's still a little bit of worry. I don't know if maybe it'll go away totally at some point, but just a little bit more cautious, because you just don't want it to happen again.
And Jimmy Tubbs is on the webinar here, and
there he is. Yeah.
He's telling us he's 69. Don't sell him short. His very best friends are in the Itasca Runners Club. Dan, Tommy, Paul, and Don paced his very first half, and he's been like a bad penny. Can't get rid of him.
So he's a great guy.
Jimmy's in here. Thank you, Jimmy. So we had just kind of talked about this too. Somebody wants to know how many pairs of running shoes you guys have, and why are you unable to throw them out? What's the emotional connection with
I
these
throw
shoes?
them out.
Yeah, I held on to them for a long time, and I finally got to the point, this is kind of stupid. I mean, I wear them to maybe cut the grass or something, or just go for a stroll. But I don't have any emotional attachment to my shoes, so I just started tossing them. I probably might not.
Bohemian, I have a hard time throwing anything out, especially because we spend so much on shoes. Yeah. But also, I'm like, I'll wear them for mowing the lawn. I'll wear them for this, and throwing things out is hard for me. I'm getting better at it though. I'm starting to clean this whole catastrophe. Being in the house, I'm starting to get better at throwing things out. So we're heading in the right direction.
Oh, Frank, wait,
Yeah.
excuse me. Oh.
Uh-oh.
Marty, this is addressed to you.
Oh boy.
I continue to get your mail. Seriously, he used to live at 212 on the next block. We are 212, and we still get boxes and magazines.
What was nice is I didn't have to pay for Sports Illustrated. I just read it, and he'd just get it a week late.
Oh, this one's interesting. It says, Marty, I run this 6-mile course called the Marty.
That's right.
that goes through the south side of Itasca. It is so windy that I can barely remember the turns. A few questions. Is it just a coincidence, or was that course actually named after you? And then, if so, are you some kind of hero, like a war hero, a famous ballet dancer? I'm into giving guided tours on runs, so just wanted to know the history.
Yes.
And well,
What?
one more thing.
More.
That's
Warm-
quite a letter. That's
Warm regards, Tom Pizzo.
I missed that last part. What was it? Warm regards,
Tom Pizzo.
Tom Pizzo. The first part, yes, that was my course that I designed. Trying to come up with something less curvy than the Saturday morning run, a little more straight, less turns, nice 6 mile out and back, or 3 mile out, 3 mile back. Second part of that, no, I'm not anybody famous.
All right, next question.
All right. This is kind of tying into the Tom Pizzo reference here.
Uh-oh.
Who is your guys' biggest running inspiration? Tom Pizzo or Jim? Forgive me if I butcher your last name here. Morcuni?
That's right.
Cooney, yeah.
That's a tough one.
Tom is inspirational in many ways, but I don't know about inspiring me to run more.
The thing about Pizzo is, he's the kind of guy you can go on a run with him. He's like born and bred in this area. So when he takes you, when you go on a run through Itasca, he's got more stories about, things at different houses or on different blocks or what used to be there. He's almost like a tour guide. So he's inspirational. As much as I like Jim, I think I got to vote for Tommy Pizzo.
And Jim has been killing it lately.
Yeah, Jim's
He's probably the one of us
I don't
who's,
keep up with Jim that much. He's ahead of me typically.
but the one of us whose times are improving instead of slowing.
All right. Who has run more miles, Dan or Marty?
Oh, there's no doubt, Marty. Marty for sure.
I don't know about that, Dan. I remember seeing you at the fitness center way back when, before the running group on that track.
Yeah, going in a circle for 2 hours.
Yeah.
My God. No, I would vote Marty. He's the athlete in the group.
I think Dan's more consistent, though.
That's a toss-up.
Besides the technical difficulties we've experienced here tonight, what's been more difficult, training for endurance running or recovering from your respective injuries?
That's a good question. I would, for me personally, again, heart attack, it sounds like it's, oh my God, a heart attack. But the recovery wasn't difficult at all. I felt really normal afterwards, other than the mental aspect of it. But training for those endurance runs, I mean, you run the Chicago Marathon in October, that means you're training 16 weeks during the summer months outdoors. And I just remember some brutal long runs at Bussy Woods or down at the lake, and just really tough runs. So I would say the endurance runs are really tough.
Yeah, especially for our type of injuries. I mean, if it's a running injury, I think that's worse because it's just very frustrating. You're trying to keep running, but yet not run to make it worse. And it just, some of these running injuries, some of us are lucky and haven't been injured that often, which is great. But if you do have something, and it's hard, because it's always bothering you until eventually it goes away. But when you're training, at least you have some good days, bad days. You have some great training days. You have some bad training days. But those good ones are the ones that you really get that runner's high, you really enjoy, and kind of inspire you to keep going.
Marty and Dan, can you guys talk about those runner's injuries that you guys have had besides your major injuries that you guys have recovered from? But what are some of those other minor injuries that you guys have had that have affected your training and running?
I guess for me, it's been some, muscle strains like calf muscles and things like that. And if you can find a good trainer, a good chiropractor that knows how to kind of dig in there and tear stuff apart and get it moving again. And acupuncture, the massages, those are the tough things, like Marty's saying. You could start to feel better, and you're climbing the walls, you want to go running anyways, and maybe you go out a little too soon and you just aggravate something, and it's back, and now you're sitting even longer than had you just waited a little bit longer. So what about you, Marty?
Yeah, I've had a lower ab issue for the last couple of years, and relatively I've been injury free, I think, most of my last 20 years. I've had some small foot pain here and there, but nothing that's really prevented me from running until this last couple of years. I've had some lower ab pain and went through physical therapy, all of that, and you just kind of keep working at it. And sometimes it feels good, sometimes it doesn't. Had a couple MRIs. They couldn't really find too much. Found some small tears that they couldn't really do anything with. Diagnosed somewhat as a sports hernia. That you couldn't really have surgery on, so it's more trying to do physical therapy and exercises and just strengthen the core. Which a lot of those exercises is, it's something you got to keep up on, and it's not as fun as going out there running, So it's one of those things you got to stay on top of and keep taking care of, which, is somewhat, they're easy exercises, but yet for some reason they're hard to just make sure you're doing every day in and day out. So I'm finally at the point where I'm somewhat pain-free now this last month or two.
Let's see. All right. Okay, here's one from Jim. Out of all your races that you've run, which has been your most favorite or most memorable?
For me, it was my first marathon, and I had no idea really what to expect. And and it was Chicago, which is just crazy. The run itself, whatever, 45,000 runners, and the crowds though are just amazing. And you're going through the different neighborhoods, whether it be Pilsen or Boys Town or Chinatown. It's just incredible. And I remember telling my cousin they were going to be there, my first marathon. You're going to meet me by the old Sox Park. That's where you kind of turn around and you head back north again downtown. And I told him, have something for me to eat. I'm going to be pretty much wiped out at that point. So I see him when I get down there, and he gives me a handful of M&Ms, which, I shoveled a couple in my mouth. I put the rest of them in my pocket. My pocket's my running shorts, just to, for the last, whatever it was, 4 miles. And as you're running these marathons, you're drinking water and you're slapping water on yourself and dripping. And the one thing you want to do when you get to that, close to that finish line, you want to look like you got your act together, and maybe I could do another one right away, and, like you're finished strong. So I'm running down that last stretch I can see the finish line. And I'm thinking, okay, I got to look good. And I look down, and all that water I was drinking was draining down through my pants, and the M&Ms, the colors, all going down my legs. So the red, the green, the yellow. So that's the one memory I have. But I do remember crossing that finish line and getting the medal, and, it was very rewarding.
Dan, talk about memorable. You should tell them about remember the hot one when the race got stopped and.
Oh yeah, that was 2007, and that was a difficult one from the standpoint of just they ran out of water. Mark, what was it when the race started?
It was like
80 degrees. And,
it was like 90 toward the end.
And they had helicopters flying over, and they pushed a group of us off at Chinatown, and we had to get on the L, and they told us the race had been canceled. And it turned out it hadn't been. So I got off the train and got back into the race and did it. But it was so many people were just disqualified or couldn't finish, or some people didn't survive. There were several fatalities during that run.
So the funny thing, you and I were running together. Remember, we were going to stop at the half. We're both like, we're going to cash it in. And we couldn't find our families. Yeah. So we were like, let's jump back in.
Let's just go do it.
And then you were kind of cramping up a little bit, so I ran ahead. And then, like you said, you got on the L, and you ended up leapfrogging me.
Yeah.
So, any other questions, Frank?
Let's see here. Oh yeah, we still got a couple here. Let me see. What was more difficult to recover from, the physical injury or the mental aspect of being away and getting back into the training?
Without a doubt, for me, after my heart attack, it was definitely the mental aspect. Physical part of it, I felt good. During the physical therapy, the training at the fitness center over at Alexian. But definitely the mental part of it was the toughest for me.
Yeah, I would agree. Same here.
What about any changes to your diet that you guys had to do because of your experience?
For sure, for me, I mean, I would arm wrestle anybody for the last piece of coffee cake, and I just love, Keen's Bakery and all the rest of it, and I really had to cut back, and that's been difficult for me, avoiding the sweets for sure.
Yeah, I'm still working on that.
All right, so outside of marathons, what's your guys' favorite fitness activity?
Can't tell you. No, I like biking a lot because my wife likes it too, so we bike a lot together. Right now we're walking a lot with the dogs because it's been cooler, but once it starts getting nicer, we'll bike a lot.
Yeah, same here, biking. Unfortunately, we do a bike the shore up to New Buffalo every summer in June, and it was just canceled. So it's 2-day, stay overnight, bike up there, they bus you back. So yeah, we really enjoy some of that. Not racing or anything, but just more leisure. It's a 2-day bike ride. Everybody kind of goes at their own pace, but there's stops along the way. You stop for breakfast, lunch, just a nice casual all-day ride.
Stop to duct tape your shoes up.
Yeah, if your shoes fall apart, you put some duct tape on them.
Marty,
That's because I throw them away.
Back in the
They're
bike.
20 years old.
He had 20-year-old shoes, and we're in the middle of a 100-mile bike tour, and his shoes are falling apart. He's has to duct tape them together. Like,
but wait,
cheap ass.
the worst was my wife told me, you need to get some new shoes. And I said, these shoes are perfectly fine. After 36 miles, the sole.
There goes Marty again.
Marty.
Yeah. The sole fell off him. He had to duct tape them together.
Yeah.
Marty,
we lost you.
He's talking.
Lost me again.
There you go.
There you go.
The shoe started falling apart. Had to find some duct tape to tape it back together. And meanwhile, hide from my wife to tell her it was no problem. The shoes are fine. So, but I made it. I made it to the end of the 100-mile ride.
Nice.
With duct tape on my shoes.
Oh, good.
Nice.
All right. This one just popped in. I was going to save the best one for last, but this one just came in here. How have you handled or managed the changes in fitness events, like with the races? Have you guys planned for anything in 2020? Or we're thinking 2021?
I had registered for a number of races this year. Probably 3 of them that I registered for have all been canceled or postponed. Shamrock Shuffle, March Madness. The Soldier Field 10, that's been canceled. So those 3. So I don't, there's some half marathons planned for later in the year, but I just don't know. Everything's kind of up in the air right now. Just have to keep training. See what happens.
All right, here's the last question, and this goes to the Andruska boys here. Sorry, Dan, kind of left out of this one.
Right.
But and I gotta add that too. This was an anonymous entry. This person couldn't even put their name on this question. Anonymous entry. Who's older, Marty or Jerry?
Well, since I'm sporting the old man beard currently, and I've been letting it grow out a little bit, I do look a lot older right now.
Time out. I think we should ask the panel, the Q&A, everybody to vote. Let's ask them.
Let's have a survey.
Ask the survey.
Yeah, you're all shaved down like a little 10-year-old boy. Of course you look younger.
We need to do the poll. We're on Zoom. That's what it's all about.
I literally just tried doing it, and it's making me sign in and do all this
All right.
goofy stuff. But
Yeah.
Jenny's saying Marty. Jenny's commenting right now. She's saying Marty.
She's saying that because she knows I'm wiser.
There we go. Marty, I agree with you.
Duct tape. That's
Duct tape. There we go. Awesome, guys. That's it. And then there's a really nice comment. Love you guys.
Oh.
Oh,
Not from me, from Jenny. But
No, Frank.
I do love you guys too.
That's tender. Yes.
It is, isn't it?
Gonna get emotional.
You all need a little love right now. I'll tell you that.
right.
You need a little love. Although, I got the puppies, I got my wife. I can't ask for more. I'm actually starting to really find a groove with this whole thing of not seeing other people because I got all I need right here in the house. It's all good, man. Nobody annoys me. It's like the dogs don't talk, so that's good. We gotta look at the positives.
We never see Jerry outside again.
Yeah.
Just gotta get out my house. No, you'll see me out walking. I just gotta go to like stores or anywhere where there's people.
Hermit.
I was already starting to not like concerts and stuff like that. The lines and all the schlecking and the parking and all that. This is just a better excuse to have to go to those things.
All right. Is that about it, Frank?
Yeah, that's it on our questions.
Maybe we should wrap it up here. I don't know. I'll just say, it's great that everybody joined us for this. Frank, did we happen to record this by any chance?
I did. Yep, I hit record. We gotta go.
So maybe we post the recording. Will it be posted on the library website?
Yeah, we'll have it available on the library's YouTube page.
I'm sure
Anybody that
there'll
wants to
be a
take
lot
it.
of people tuning in.
And next week we're working on a topic. So Frank, I will.
But it's gonna be good, I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
Whatever it is, it's gonna be good.
I'm trying to lock the speaker down, but
Yeah.
but yeah, we'd love to hear from the group. If there's any particular topic you would like to hear or a particular guest. We've had all these guest stars. Let us know. So we're just looking for all kinds of ideas and suggestions. So thanks again, Frank, for hosting us. I know library work is very different in this virtual world right now.
Yeah, we're very used to seeing people come into our building, and it's been a little bit of a curveball, but we're adapting and just trying to be there for our community during this difficult time. But thank you to you guys for and the Itasca Runners Club for doing this. I can't thank you guys enough. It's pretty awesome.
It's fun.
Thank you guys.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, we're gonna have to, after this is all over, we're gonna have to get a Itasca Runners Club reunion with all the panelists coming together.
Ah,
There we're talking. Good idea.
Talk about
reunion show.
how draconian Mark's been during this and so difficult to work with. And
We're gonna pepper Mark with questions.
I get to ask.
yeah,
Our dear leader.
Yeah.
Hey, just one last note. Everybody tuning in, thanks for tuning in and appreciate you guys listening. Hopefully you can find a little bit of inspiration or from all that we're yapping on about, and get out there and exercise and walk with the dogs and get out in the fresh air and sunshine.
Enjoy life.
Yes.
Got it.
awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for attending. And again, thank you, Itasca Runners Club. Everybody stay safe, stay healthy. Take care.
Yeah.